In Peter's tranquil bedroom, a sudden disturbance shatters the silence, jolting him awake. Despite his efforts to dismiss it, the eerie noise persists, seemingly emanating from the very walls around him. Filled with apprehension, Peter seeks solace in his mother's presence, but the source of the disturbance eludes them both. As daylight breaks, the true extent of Peter's ordeal begins to unfold, casting a shadow over his once peaceful existence. Peter endures relentless bullying at school, seeking refuge in the arrival of Miss Devine, a compassionate substitute teacher who offers him sanctuary indoors during recess. As they bond over decorating the classroom, Peter's night takes a chilling turn when a disembodied voice whispers his name from behind the walls. Panic-stricken, Peter reaches out to his father, Mark, but the source remains elusive. Convinced it's rats, Mark decides on drastic action, heading to the shed for poison. Meanwhile, Miss Devine's concern grows as she notices Peter's unsettling artwork depicting a child in distress. A visit to Peter's home reveals Carol's dismissal, attributing it to his imagination, but Miss Devine senses darker forces at play. As Peter grapples with the mysterious events unfolding within the walls of his home, a soft voice beckons him from the darkness, offering companionship to the lonely boy. Drawn to the allure of this enigmatic presence, Peter welcomes the voice's offer, seeking solace in its whispered promises. Amidst the chaos of school, Peter finds respite in the sanctuary of his room, where the voice behind the wall becomes a confidant in his struggles against the relentless bullying inflicted by Brian. Empowered by the voice's counsel, Peter confronts his tormentor, only to be met with a hollow apology. Yet, the whispering voice urges Peter to embrace his newfound courage, planting seeds of retaliation in his mind. As Peter grapples with conflicting emotions, the stage is set for a chilling confrontation that will test the limits of his resolve. In a moment of desperate empowerment, Peter confronts Brian, but the result is disastrous as Brian tumbles down a staircase, his leg broken. Chaos ensues, threatening Peter's expulsion from school. At home, Mark, torn between love and discipline, confines Peter, leaving him to grapple with his isolation and the haunting presence beyond the wall. Meanwhile, Miss Devine, sensing Peter's turmoil, pays him a visit, leaving behind a glimmer of hope in the form of her phone number. As night falls, Carol's comforting presence offers Peter solace in homemade pumpkin pies, marking the end of his basement confinement. Yet, drawn by curiosity and hope, Peter returns to the wall, seeking contact with the mysterious voice that has both tormented and comforted him in equal measure. The voice responds, whispering ethereally, urging Peter to distrust his parents. Its warnings hint at a sinister truth lurking beneath their facade, intensifying Peter's yearning to meet its mysterious source. Hesitantly, the voice reveals a hidden secret, a concealed hole behind the wallpaper, leading to a shadowy realm. Peter learns the chilling truth. The voice belongs to Sarah, his long-lost sister imprisoned behind the wall. Sarah shares her harrowing tale, warning Peter of their parents' malevolence and the imminent danger he faces. Resolved to free his sister, Peter decides to seek Miss Devine's help, convinced she could be their ally. With newfound courage, Peter embarks on a stealthy mission to contact Miss Devine, dialing her number with trembling fingers, each digit a step closer to unveiling the dark secrets within his home. With a mix of desperation and hope, Peter tries to contact Miss Devine, only to be interrupted by a sudden noise. Startled, he finds his mother, Carol, sternly confronting him. She guides him back to his room, her disappointment evident as she notices the torn wallpaper, a sign of Peter's secret. Fear grips her as she warns Peter of the consequences. As Sarah's whispers grow louder, urging Peter to confront his parents, tension rises at the dinner table. Mark's casual comment about the soup goes unnoticed by Carol, who is on edge due to the strange scent in the air. Mark's suspicions are piqued by the open shed door and Peter's untouched meal. Pressing for answers, Mark's frustration mounts as Peter remains silent. But Peter breaks the tense silence with a shocking accusation, accusing Mark of harming his sister. The revelation sends shockwaves through the family, and the truth dawns on Mark. Horror grips them as Peter confesses to lacing their dinner with rat poison. Mark writhes in agony as the poison takes its fatal toll, prompting Carol to frantically attempt to call for help, only to discover the phone line severed in the chaos. As Mark succumbs to the poison, Carol, overcome with horror, lunges for a knife, her movements fueled by the poison coursing through her veins. In a tragic turn of events, she collapses, inadvertently impaling herself on the blade. With his family's fate sealed, Peter seizes the opportunity to escape, driven by a resolve to reach his sister. In his room, he stands before the clock concealing the hidden door, keys in hand. With a mix of anxiety and determination, Peter relays to Sarah that he holds the means to free her from her shadowy prison. With trembling hands, Peter places his palm on the clock, steeling himself to uncover the secrets hidden within the walls. With a racing heart, he pushes against the weighty timepiece, the sound of its impact echoing through the room as it crashes to the floor, shattering into fragments and revealing a concealed hatch. Sarah's voice urges him to continue, and as the hatch creaks open, shadows spill forth, and Sarah emerges, her form unsettlingly inhuman. Overwhelmed by fear, Peter flees to an adjoining room for safety. But Sarah's presence looms ominously, her voice seeping through the cracks of the door, as she confronts Peter about the horrors he's witnessed. In the midst of this eerie confrontation, the doorbell rings, and the creature that was once Sarah retreats into the darkness outside. Brian and his cousin, driven by vengeance, approach Peter's house. The door swings open mysteriously, beckoning them inside. Determined, they enter amidst the chaos, intent on finding their target. Meanwhile, Peter hides under his bed, terrified as chaos ensues. Sarah's emergence brings lethal consequences, while one cousin spots Peter's hiding place, but gets distracted by a call. Brian's horror deepens as he encounters Carol's motionless body, and witnesses the violent events unfolding around him. Sarah's ruthless efficiency leaves only Brian standing, but even he is not spared as spiders descend upon him, summoned by Sarah's will. Confronted by the horrifying sight of Sarah, Brian faces his imminent demise. Cut to another scene, where Miss Devine, driven by a sense of impending danger, hurries to Peter's house. Inside, Peter witnesses the gruesome aftermath of Sarah's deeds, a decapitated body lying in her wake. Sarah exits the room, her movements unnatural as she crawls towards Peter. In a terrifying revelation, Sarah speaks of the joy of Peter's birth contrasted with her own cries of terror, revealing the dark truth of her existence. Their father's repulsion condemned her to a life of darkness, confined within a hidden cage behind the wall. While Peter lived a life of comfort and warmth, Sarah's existence was one of misery and survival, mastering the art of navigating the shadows and learning harsh self-defense. Now driven by grim retribution, Sarah drags Peter away, imprisoning him in the very space that had been her cell for so long. Meanwhile, Miss Devine arrives at Peter's house, greeted by eerie cries and shadows lurking in the kitchen. The scene is one of havoc, prompting her to attempt a call to emergency services only to be interrupted as she stumbles upon Sarah's unmistakable hair and feels a sharp scratch on her leg. In the unfolding horror, Miss Devine discovers a lifeless body, and Sarah advances towards her as she desperately tries to escape, realizing she's trapped. Peter's voice pierces through, urging Devine to escape. With fierce determination, she breaks through the wall and attempts to flee the cursed house. But as Devine reaches safety outside, Peter is pulled back into the depths of the home. Regaining consciousness, Peter finds himself in Sarah's underground chamber. As she crawls towards him, he seeks to understand her motives. Sarah reveals the harsh reality of her existence as the unwanted child condemned to darkness. As Miss Devine returns, Sarah lunges at her. In a moment of courageous desperation, Peter pulls himself out of the pit. Devine strikes back, forcing Sarah back into the depths. Peter secures the hatch, sealing Sarah within, concluding the movie with a haunting sense of closure.